6:30 a.m. in the morning, so welcome. I'm the moderator for today. My name is Carmen Pacella. Can you hear me? Thank you. Before I introduce the 5 candidates, just give you a little overview of what we're going to do. We're going to introduce the candidates. Each one will have a 3-minute opening statement. After that statement, we have prepared questions, and each will have 2 minutes to answer the questions. And then we'll have the member questions from you all. And then we'll have closing statements after that, 2 minutes each. And then we'll conclude our activities for this morning. So the candidates have been pulled by random in terms of numbers, in terms of their order. The candidates will be to fill 3 seats on the 3rd Laguna Hills Mutual Board of Directors with terms expiring at the 2027 annual election. So let me introduce as follows, and in the order that they were picked at random. Donald Hopman is number 1 position. Number 2 is Egon Garthhoffner. Number 3 is Craig Wayne. Number 4 is Ruth Johnson. And number 5 is Robert Muchnick. So without further ado, starting with Donald Hopman, you have 3 minutes to make your opening statement, and your timer will begin when our corporate secretary gives you the go-ahead. Ready? Thank you. Begin.
At age 90, I thought it was past competing for being a board member in any association. However, I have been motivated by recent events of my experience here at Laguna Woods. We really love being here in Laguna Woods. We first came and bought an apartment at one of the 3-story buildings at Gate 14. And subsequently, after about 3 or 4 years there, my wife decided she'd really rather be in a house. So now we bought one at Gate 7, and it's working out. We've been there since March. The reason I got involved in is we've had a couple of experiences, and I won't go into them in detail, that made me feel like, you know what, life could be even better than it is here in a few ways. Whenever you get questioned about why do you want to serve on a board like this, you're asked questions like, what's the one most important thing that you think about, or what are the first 2 things that you think about? Well, for me, I think about 2 things. One is physical plant, and the other is people things that have to do with the organization and employees and the bureaucracy and the amount of money that we have to pay and that sort of thing. Physical plant is critical. Neglected maintenance is something that's very difficult to recover from, and you really can't afford to delay very long. When we lived in the apartments, there was a problem with actual flooding in the garage areas, and it's been an issue for years, I understand, here, and nobody seems to have taken it on really in a way that needs to be done. Whether it is an easier solution than some that have been looked at or not, I don't know, but I would like to take a close look at that. The other thing is people things. We're governed by the Davis-Sterling Act, and the Davis-Sterling Act was passed because community associations like this one and others across the country, actually, but the Davis-Sterling only applied to California. Very often, the associations were making life miserable for their members. They didn't take their basic concerns to heart. And some of what they were doing was really oppressive. So they passed the Davis-Sterling Act, And the Davis Sterling Act brought into effect rules and regulations to protect residents and members. And it worked for a good period of time. And then there was some slippage over the years. And then they passed an update of the Davis Sterling Act a couple of decades later. And again, it got improved. And I think here, for the most part... Oh,
Time is up.
okay.
Okay, we're going to go to the next person. That would be... We're going to go
That's my
to the next person is Egon Garth Hoffner, and you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Egon Garth Hoffner. I've been here in the village for 9 years. I have been on the GRF board for 4.5 years, and I've been active in many other clubs and activities in the village for the whole time that we've been here. My goal is to continue the conservative fiscal actions that I've been practicing for 4.5 years as a director in the GRF board. I propose to focus on 3 key areas: ensuring fiscal responsibility, enhancing communications with members, and improving our oversight of VMS activities. First, ensuring fiscal responsibility is paramount. As a board member, I will prioritize the prudent management of the HOA's assets. This means ensuring that our funds are spent effectively with common sense. Second, enhancing communications is crucial. Clear and open communications between directors and homeowners is a must. Usually that comes in the form of help to get a stalled project or request moving. I've had occasions to help, as a director on GRF, to help residents who have approached me in both Third and United with projects that they have had that have stalled out. Third, we must improve the interaction between VMS board and the boards. Our fiduciary and communication efforts will be in vain if we don't. We must clearly define the relationships and our expectations. We're a $150 million a year operation, and we need to evaluate the quality of our spending decisions more closely. Time and again, we've seen that spending requests made in the boardroom by VMS for potential projects do not appear as necessary when actually evaluated by inspections during site visits. Lesson learned, board members must be involved in the understanding the need for spending requests. After all, it's the board members that have a fiduciary responsibility, not VMS. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we go to the next, we have the timer set for Mr. Craig Wayne. Your time is on.
Good morning, my name is... Yeah, why don't you push the button, Craig? Good start. My name is Craig Wayne, and I'm really not trying to get your sympathy vote by wearing this sling. I really did have a total shoulder replacement. So now that we got that out of the way, my family owned a manor here 50 years ago, and they continue to live here. And then after my father passed away, I inherited, and my sister and I inherited the place. My sister lives in Hawaii, so she has no interest in the place here, so I bought her half out. So I have lived here for 6 years now. As far as my background goes, I have 50 years of experience in the insurance and investment industry. So I was an insurance broker, and I had securities licenses as high up as the general security principal. I was president of 2 other boards, one in Santa Clarita and one in Hawaii, prior to being on the board here. So my experience is such that I have experienced everything from the startup of a HOA board to an experienced HOA board like we have here. The HOA board in Valencia, being a startup like it was. I negotiated with some of my other clients for landscaping because I had that connection because of my insurance industry background. I also went to at that time I think it was Waste Management, and negotiated a deal with them so that instead of each member getting a bill every month, I said, how about if you just send us the bill and we will pay it? And that way I negotiated, you'll keep the rate for 3 years without going up. So that's one of my accomplishments. The board in Hawaii was another situation where even though it wasn't a startup, they hadn't done anything to get the association up and running. So I became president of that association also and worked on getting the rules and regulations in place. Okay.
Thank you, Craig. Now we'll go to Ruth Johnson.
Good morning. I would be honored to serve on the board of Third Mutual, contributing my business, technical, organizational, and personal skills. I'm prepared to devote significant time and energy to board activities, working together to provide guidance and affect change that will benefit all members of our community. I'm a candidate for 3 reasons. First, to support relations between community members, Third Mutual, and VMS, fostering transparency and open dialogue among residents, board members, and VMS. Second, after a thorough analysis, able to generate new ideas on cost reductions and savings that will benefit all members, and include detailed recommendations on how to achieve them. My goal will be to produce winning outcomes for all parties. Lastly, the board needs better representation for women. There is currently only 1 woman on the Third Mutual board and no women candidates to represent our unique approach. I'm confident that I will be a valuable addition to the board, given over 30 years in technology management, with documented success in leadership positions in both public and private companies. I managed multinational electronics companies, including Beckman and Philips, when women were a minority. I started up 2 divisions that provided software manufacturing and packaging services for major clients such as Xerox and Hewlett-Packard. I did so by hiring smarter people than I was and by building cohesive teams that went on to great success. I traveled worldwide for business and grew to appreciate other cultures and traditions. For the last 12 years, I managed human resources for McDonald's in Hawaii, where we once planned to retire. Life is strange sometimes, and here we are back in California. I hope to join the Third Mutual board and work with each of you to support the continued health and vitality of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now the 5th is Robert Muchnick.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today, and it's nice to see so many people in the audience. After retirement 5 years ago, my wife and I moved to Laguna Woods Village. We moved here to be a support system for my 100-year-old mother-in-law, who still lives here in the village. She's been here for 33 years, and we came here to help take care of her. But we've been coming back and forth to the village for most of those 33 years to see her and her husband when he was still alive. Before I retired, I was a university professor and department chair. I worked for 44 years in the academic setting. In terms of my education, I earned a PhD in criminology from Florida State University in 1979. Besides being a professor, I was a co-owner of a flight school and airplane brokerage business for 12 years, where we flew all around the country purchasing planes for resale. In terms of HOA board experience, I've served as a president of an HOA for 8 years in Hilton Head, South Carolina. I also served as a member of Third Board here in the village for 3 years. 2 of those years I was treasurer, and for almost a year I served as president. I see myself as both an innovator and a problem solver. For example, when I was president of the Third, I was the one who implemented the monthly open forums that are being held and still being held in Clubhouse 2 to this day. As well, I also implemented the weekly emails from president to residents. These innovations have continued by Third and are copied now by both United and GRF. As a problem solver, I was the person responsible for moving the paint program from 10 years to 15 years. This was accomplished by having the paint supplier increase the warranty on the paint to 15 years at no additional cost to Third Mutual. This change from every 10 years to 15 years is saving the mutual hundreds of thousands of dollars. We have a big number of big issues that will challenge us financially in the coming years. We need board members who understand how to manage our finances while maintaining our level of maintenance. Our infrastructure is approaching 60 years of age and will require more long and short-term maintenance. I believe I have the skills, the knowledge, the experience to help address many of those issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to go to the prepared questions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond. So I will repeat the question for each candidate. So we'll start with number 1 in our normal rotation to Mr. Hopman. The question is, why are you running to become a member of the Third Mutual Board of Directors? And is there anything in particular you're hoping to accomplish as a Third Board Director? You have 2 minutes.
Yes, I have 2 major goals. One is to help to bring about a more rapid response to maintenance. And neglected maintenance is really frightening because there's real pain associated with some of the problems. Like I mentioned earlier, there's flooding every time there's a rain in the 3-story buildings. It's hazardous for the people who walk from their cars to their elevator or staircase, and nobody seems to be addressing it. Some people have actually injured themselves already, and it just goes on and on and on. And other projects are being taken care of, but that's being neglected. The other thing I feel is that too often the association lose sight of the fact of why we have a Davis-Sterling Act. It was designed to help protect the rights of the people who live here. The people, just because they sign up to be a part of an association that undoubtedly has rules and regulations that are necessary to keep the association moving, they don't lose their rights. And in many cases here, all you have to do is read the letters to the editor on a regular basis here in the Globe, and people do feel like they're being disenfranchised, and that's not right, and it doesn't give you the kind of quality of life that you feel you want. In my work, and I didn't get into this before, I worked for the state most of my life. I've been in law enforcement for 42 years, and most of it in regulatory enforcement. So I was chief of investigations when I retired for the State Department of Consumer Affairs, regulating most of the businesses in the state that require either licensing or certification, like contractors and auto repair and healing arts, medical board, dental board. All of those are in that department, and we did the regulation of all of them. In addition, I spent almost 5 years with the governor's appointment.
Thank you. Time is up. Okay. Okay. So the next candidate, I'll repeat the question for Egon Garthofner. Why are you running to become a member of the Third Mutual Board of Directors, and is there anything in particular you're hoping to accomplish as a Third Board Director?
Well, I've been here, like I said, for 4.5 years on GRF, and I thought it was a chance to take a look at the other side. I have had an opportunity from time to time when people approached me for help with some situation. to help them out. And I found that that's kind of satisfying. And I hope to do more of that when I'm on third. Like I said, direct communication with the members is crucial in this kind of situation. I don't have any particular pet projects. I hope to, if I get on the board, I hope to be useful in the very difficult upcoming problem with irrigation. It's going to be very expensive and very cost prohibitive kind of activity that's mandated, that will be mandated by the state. So I hope to be useful in achieving that. My background educationally is I have a degree from UCLA in geology and an Master's of Engineering from USC in petroleum engineering. And that's a capital-intensive industry. And so every year we would have projects and that we would have to create and support and dig out the information and present it to management to get approval for the capital expenditures. So I'm very used to the process that we go through here on a continual basis. And I'm very, very fiscally responsible, as I have been on GRF board. Thank you.
Thank you. Next candidate, Craig Wayne. Why are you running to become a member of the Third Mutual Board of Directors? And is there anything in particular you're hoping to accomplish as a third board director? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I have a problem with the transparency that we are seeing from the current board. And I'm sure that there are a lot of other people. And I know I met with the Garden Villa people yesterday, and they all seem to agree that we have a transparency problem. So that would be something that I would want to address. I don't know how we can get away with wanting to recall people without telling anybody why we're going to recall them. So that's one of my beefs. Now, as far as what I can do for the community is, with my insurance background, then we can look at the problem we have with insurance. Our insurance premiums are never going to go down. The fire danger is going to continue like it is. We were lucky when we had travelers insurance. We had them for years and years and years, and they simply raised the values of our place by a few percentage each year. Then when they stopped doing that, then we had to go out and find insurance from another source or sources, which is what we did do, but it was very difficult and we didn't get everything done. So besides what Egon is talking about, we have that expense. Thank you.
Thank you. Next candidate, Ruth Johnson. I'll repeat the question. Why are you running to become a member of the Third Mutual Board of Directors? And is there anything in particular you're hoping to accomplish as a third board director? You have 2 minutes.
Yes, I'm running for the board because I believe I can make a difference for the community and within the corporation of VMS. I have a degree from the University of California and an MBA from Pepperdine. I have extensive knowledge of process, procedure, finance, and cost and benefits, all of which can be applied to the VMS governance. I would like most of all to put in place the people with the skills and the knowledge to do the job within VMS and drive these people to excellence. I believe that we need to operate VMS as a for-profit rather than a not-for-profit company with the same kind of guidelines that we would run a normal business for-profit. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go on to Robert Muchnick. Why are you running to become a member of the Third Mutual Board of Directors? And is there anything in particular you're hoping to accomplish as a third board director?
Thank you. I'm running for the third board because I think I have the knowledge and experience to help us as we face very serious problems going forward. For example, the only source of revenue we currently have for Third Mutual is the HOA fee. And that has gone up considerably over the last couple of years and probably will continue to go up unless we can find ways to be more efficient in terms of some of our expenditures. We're also facing a couple of laws that have been instituted by the state of California that have a direct impact on Third Mutual. One of them has to do with the balconies. I don't know how many of you remember a number of years ago there was the problem in San Francisco where there was a party on a balcony and the balcony collapsed and went down 3 stories and killed a whole bunch of people. As a result of that, California passed a law requiring the inspection of balconies and the repair of balconies. And that's very costly to us. We're in the process of doing that, but that's going to be an ongoing problem for the next number of years. Another law that was recently passed by California has to do with the issue of turf and plant-tolerant replacements. And that's something that's going to cost this village a fortune, especially Third Mutual, since in Gate 11 and Gate 14, they use potable water, that's drinking water, to be able to water the plants. So we have to address that in the very near future, and I know the Third Board is currently working on that. And quickly, another area is the issue of insurance. That has gone up dramatically. Our current insurance bill for the year is $5.8 million. And with the number of wildfires that are going on and other things that are impacting the insurance industry, we're going to see serious changes there as well. So those are the kinds of issues that I'm interested in addressing as a board member. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go on to the next question. Since the question is kind of redundant, I'm going to ask the question one time and then just ask for your response. So, what are the key issues that you see facing Third Mutual and its members? And do you have any skills, knowledge, or experience which may help address them? So the first person is Mr. Hopman.
I think some of the issues have been raised very well by the panel here. I think from personal experience in the association that the lack of transparency is critical, and it has a really terrible effect. We had a situation with security where we couldn't get information from security that's specifically allotted to us by the Davis-Sterling Act. That resulted us in having to go to a hearing and getting appeals, which we don't have resolved even to this day. That's one critical thing. The other thing is the priorities that are given to projects. Like, for example, there is a $7 million project on the table now to put in a replacement facility for primarily security. And I don't know what else is going to be a part of that. But that $7 million could be really used toward much more urgent things rather than dislocating some of the members from places that they now enjoy using and won't have available to them. That $7 million could be addressing safety issues like the flooding in the 3-story buildings that I mentioned, and why people have to have their well-being put at risk to accommodate an expanding bureaucracy that hasn't really justified, in my mind, the basis that they require that expansion befuddles me.
Thank you very much. Okay, now we'll go to the next candidate, Egon Garthofner.
Well, clearly the major issue facing not just Third Board, but United and, for that matter, GRF, is always money. That's the bottom line. All these things would go away if there was a money tree someplace, but there isn't. Okay? So we're going to have to redouble the efforts to change the level of insurance that we provide. In other words, right now we're insuring at 100% level, and it's logical that we're not going to lose the entire village, that we could support a lower insurance premium if we can insure less than 100%. However, that requires voting by the members, and the members have not come out to vote in the past. That's a very big issue facing all the boards, is member participation. Very, very important. The other place, since money is the issue, we look at what's costing us the most. We talk about this, that, and the other thing, but really it's labor. 66 or about over 60% of our money is spent in the village on labor. So we have to see, is there anything that we can do to improve staffing levels with technology and that to reduce that cost to some extent? And then we have to really put together, what should I say, good long-term plans to face problems like the water supply for the irrigation and our energy costs in terms of electricity, which seem to be going out of sight and will not abate. They will continue to go higher, and it'll be a significant cost to the mutuals and to the individual homeowners also. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll go next to Craig Wayne.
I think that our problem boils down to two simple things: what we need and what can we afford. So everybody here would like to see the amenities stay like they are or get better, but we have to afford those. So we have to look at ways that we can trim the budget to keep the amenities as they are. It's no doubt that our fees are going to go up, but the idea is, what can we do to keep the fees as low as possible? And with my background in insurance and investments, I think that I am in a good position to address that issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next is Ruth Johnson.
Yes, I think the main key issue in general is meeting our members' expectations and creating a balance between the members and the organization of VMS. I believe my experience allows me to focus on the key areas for me, which are water, electricity, labor, and control of expenses purchased items. As an organization or as a board, we need to recognize the problem and analyze the causes, determine the solution, the cost of that, and act. And I believe that that is an area where we have been lacking in the past. My industry experience has been heavily governed by OSHA, effluent, air quality, safety, and government. In any business at all, whether it's McDonald's making hamburgers or making semiconductors or governing an organization like Laguna Woods, there are a great many similarities, and my experience and knowledge can be applied to these. But I would focus first on water and electricity, which are key issues for the whole village. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Robert Muchnick.
Thank you. I think part of my answer to this question is similar to what I said in my last one. That is that we have a limited income. That income, again, is from HOA fees. I think we can look at other options that might increase revenue for us, but again, that's limited by Davis Sterling and limited by the law in terms of HOAs by the state of California. But one area that I think we can work on is the area of insurance. We currently, in Third Mutual, have $275 million coverage in property insurance. That's $275 million on a $1.5 billion evaluation of the village, of Third Mutual. I'm sorry, the total village evaluation is $3.5 billion. So we have lowered the coverage that we have. Now, I'm not saying that the coverage we have is inappropriate, but if we're going to continue to see the insurance cost rise, we can't really continue to drop the percentage of coverage that we have, because that'll put us all at risk. So we have to find a way to address that. I have a thought that I would like us to explore in terms of the insurance, and that is to self-insure for the first $10 million. If we self-insure for the first $10 million, we can cut our insurance premium by a couple of $1 million a year. So that's just one thought that I have. I have some other thoughts as it relates to some other areas that we could address and be innovative in terms of addressing these kinds of things. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to change up the rotation a little bit on the next question. We will start with Robert Muchnick, and I will raise the question now. The Board of Directors are usually members of several third and/or GRF committees. Which committees are you most interested in being a member of, and why?
Well, in keeping with exactly what I've just said, I would like to be on the Maintenance and Construction Committee because I've told you before, our infrastructure is 60 years old, and the maintenance requirements are going to be even greater as we go forward. Plus the implementation of the two laws that I addressed earlier, the one related to balconies and the one related to turf, are also things that are going to be addressed through maintenance and construction and then partially through landscape. Another committee I'd like to be on is the Architectural Standards Committee. I think that's an important committee in terms of deciding how to address issues, for instance, of common area and whether a common area should or should not be given to members. And, for example, I think there's a way that we could address that issue in a positive way that would also generate revenue. I think we should explore if we're going to think about giving common area to people to extend their units, why not charge them for that common area? Sell it to them, as opposed to just giving it away. So those are two of the committees I'd like to be on.
Thank you. Next up is Ruth Johnson.
The committees that I would be very interested in participating in would be, first of all, finance. The finance here also involves area of purchasing, and I feel that I'm very competent to do a lot of analysis and evaluation of our performance in that area. Also, maintenance and construction. When we moved to Laguna Woods, we remodeled our house, so I have firsthand experience on working with the construction people and working through the problems with what we've all had is ruptured pipes and repiping. I would also be interested in working with landscape. A lot of that is, I think, we don't perceive or have enough knowledge of what is really happening in landscape, and it needs to be shared with the members and made possible for the members to participate. And lastly, architectural, very interested in that. Having been through it all myself and having traveled through the village, I would really like to see some of the standards that we already have upheld so our community continues to be #1 and the most beautiful in California. Thank you.
Thank you. Next candidate, Craig Wayne.
It seems like maintenance and construction is a favorite today. That would be one that I would be interested in being on again. And like Donald said, things are getting run down. And like Robert said, we have this situation where these things need to be replaced or examined to be replaced, like the patios, balconies. So that would be one area that I'd be interested in. Obviously, with my background in finance, I would like to be on the finance committee. And I think landscaping could use a little help too. So I would like to also be on the landscaping committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Next candidate, Egon Garthofner. You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, well, gee, M&C is going to get pretty crowded, isn't it? And I was chair of M&C for GRF for 3 years. But so I'll leave it to the ones that have already spoken for it. I think transportation is an important committee. We we spend an awful lot of money on cars, and we spend an enormous amount of money on maintenance. Our expenditures on maintenance on cars is $2,000 per car per year. That's 4 times the national average. I looked that up on AAA data. Ford, the local Ford dealer, would be willing to give us a extended warranty of $500 per year for each vehicle up to about 8 years. There are lots of ways to save money on that, and we got to get a little bit more, what should I say, creative with the bus system. We have a bus system, it's necessary, but it's also very expensive, something like $1.7 million per year, and when your bus goes by, you don't see a whole lot of people on it. So that's something that needs to, that has potential. I'm also interested in landscaping, as I said about the water problem. It's going to be a long-range thing. And also, there's another thing. If you look at the area around Clubhouse 1, where initially landscaping was done with help from the Audubon Society, there's a lot of beautiful flowering trees. And in the area where I live, up in Gate 14, most of those things have disappeared, and we got a bunch of trees that just aren't all that attractive. And I think a very long-range plan and stuff like that is always fun to work on. Thanks.
Thank you. Next is Donald Hopman.
To my way of thinking, the most serious problem in any large organization like this is bureaucracies. Bureaucracies are insidious. If they're left unchecked, they will just grow exponentially, and they'll suck up resources beyond what there is necessary to get the job done. And I would want to serve on any and as many committees as I could to impact the unchecked bureaucracies that are growing exponentially. When I was chief of the Division of Investigation in my first year, I was able to reduce our budget by over 15% just by reducing the span of control within the organization. I was started to say when I ran out of time, I also spent 5 years as Deputy Director of the Department of Health, and I was in charge of licensing and certifying all the health facilities in the state of California: hospitals, nursing homes, community care facilities, clinics, anything that you can imagine came under that. And we had regulations that we had to enforce, both state and federal. And we were able to do that in a way that I was able to hold down the costs of that organization so that when new functions were tossed our way by the legislature, I was able to absorb them without expanding the budget. That's what I really would like to do. I would like to have as wide impact as I can, generally across the organization, so that we can rein in all the bureaucracies, whether it's security or maintenance or whatever.
Thank you. Okay, on the next question, I'm going to ask the question first, and then we'll pick random candidate rotation. So the question is, what do you think the key activities are of board directors, and what do you expect your time commitment to be as a third board director? And we'll start with Craig Wayne.
Sorry, could you repeat that question?
Yes. What do you think the key activities are of board directors, and what do you expect your time commitment to be as a third board director?
Okay. So the primary job of the directors is to evaluate all of the information that affects all of us in the village. So what we need to do is take a look at all of those things as directors and figure out accordingly what needs to be done. And as I mentioned earlier, you have your needs and your wants and what you can afford, and you have to balance those out. And as far as time goes, I have been on the board before of Third Mutual, so I can tell you that it takes several hours a week. Thank you.
Thank you. Ruth Johnson.
I believe that key activity is something I've practiced for a long time. It's called management by wandering around. I believe that if you spend time in the community talking with people, you will find out what is happening. And I believe we've not done enough of that. Either VMS or the boards do not spend enough time in the community. That in itself, as you can imagine, is very time consuming. When I find issues, I would bring those to the board to be addressed as they come up. And I've found just in my few years here that there are very common issues that we need to address. As far as time, I'm actually the third board's representative to VMS now, an appointed position for a short term. And I have found that, believe it or not, it's a full-time job. I've created, in a very few months, about 6 inches of paper that has to be shredded. And the reading is amazing, and just being on committees is amazing. I thought when I was here, maybe I'd get a part-time job because I was bored, but I don't have time for a part-time job anymore. So it is really a full-time position if you do it right, and I believe if you accept a position, you need to do it right, and you need to have that in your mind. You don't accept it and think, I can get away with just a few hours. You need to plan for full-time, and if you're lucky you get any time off, enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Egon Garthhoffner.
Well, clearly the most time-consuming issues are meetings. The board meeting and then the committee meetings. I would also expect to spend a fair amount of time doing background research on projects, at least the more significant capital projects, to see if they make any sense. I would expect to spend, 15 to 20 hours a week on board activities. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Next up is Robert Muchnick.
First of all, I would have to agree with my colleague to my right that she's correct. This is a full-time job, and you have to treat it like a full-time job. When I was on the board previously, that's what it was, and I certainly know that it's ahead of me, and I have no problems doing that. In terms of what is the primary focus of a director of Third Mutual, I think the primary focus boils down to the concept of fiduciary responsibility. Fiduciary responsibility means that the board of directors has to act in the financial and health and well-being of the mutual itself, at putting aside any personal conflicts or possible personal gain. You have to come at it as an independent individual who will look out for the best interest of the mutual. And that's the primary responsibility, and there's a lot that goes into that in terms of being able to accomplish that, includes talking to residents. That's why when I was president, I established those monthly open forums so that people could come in and talk and raise issues that they were concerned about, so the board would listen to them, hear them, and potentially act on those things. So I think transparency, communication, and meeting your fiduciary responsibility are the key elements for a board member. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Donald Hopman.
Yeah. There are certain jobs where if you accept them, whether it's for pay or voluntarily, you really can't think of them in terms of hours to be spent each week or each month. You really just have to recognize that the job requires that you be available most of the time for most of the people. And people will, when they get to know you, they will come to you with their problems and their ideas, and you have to be open and responsive to it. And it may take a lot more time than you thought you were going to have to invest, but that's the nature of the beast.
Thank you. The last question, have you been a member of the third board in the past? And if so, please explain why you're no longer on the board and why you've decided to join the third board again. And we will start with Number 2, let's start with Egon Garthhoffner.
Well, I don't know how much sense that question makes, because I haven't been a member of the third board before. I don't know if the other people have either, so. No, I've not been a member before, so I think anything else would be superfluous, thanks.
And so why, the remainder of the question is why you've decided to join the third board again? So you've not been on the board, so that's a redundant question.
So the word is again.
Thank you.
Again, yeah.
Okay, now we'll go to Robert Muchnick.
Clearly, this question was directed to me, and I understand that. Yes, I was recalled when I was president of the third board, and I believe that the main reason for the recall had to do with the necessary increase in the HOA that many of our members found unacceptable. The HOA was raised by $95 in one single year, and that had, yes. And was we happy to do that? Absolutely not. Was it something that we wanted to do? No. But we felt we had no choice because, as I said earlier, the evaluation of Third Mutual, what happened was, and Craig had addressed this earlier, Travelers represented us for 20 years, and they raised the insurance very little. They covered us for the full $750 million, the evaluation of the whole village. All of a sudden, Travelers turned to us and said, before we are willing to write another policy for you, we want a reevaluation of the village. That evaluation in 1 year went from $750 million for the whole village. It went up 5 times. It went to $3.5 billion. And the insurance premiums then were proportionate to that kind of increase. So all of a sudden, we were faced with this massive change in the insurance situation. We consulted our lawyers. Our lawyers at the time told us that we needed to insure 100% of the value. All right? Now, there's differing opinions in terms of the legal aspects of it, but insurers told us that. I mean, the legal beagle told us that, so we did that. As a result of that, people were very unhappy, and there was a recall, and I was recalled. That's the situation. Why am I interested in getting back on the board? I've got 8 seconds, because I think I do have a lot to contribute, and I think that the recall was an inappropriate way to handle things. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Donald Hopman.
Well, I've never served on a board in Laguna Woods. I have a lot of experience with boards in the past, and I have nothing to say more about that question, which I kind of think in some ways is inappropriate in this setting. There's ways to deal with that issue, but I don't think this was the right setting for that question.
Thank you. Next is Ruth Johnson.
As I mentioned, I am the third board's... Better? As I mentioned, I am the third board's representative right now to VMS. So I guess that makes me a half a member of the third board. In any case, I do attend the third board meetings, the open meetings right now, as well as all the VMS meetings. So have a great interaction with both of them. I believe that third board has a great deal of influence and is becoming more and more so. Has the majority of people, land, property, and I believe interested people in the board. And my experience with the current members that will still be on the board is that they are very, very knowledgeable in many, many areas of business and really have the skills and the desire to continue to improve this community.
Thank you. Next up is Craig Wayne.
Thank you. I resigned from the board about 3 months before it was time for the renewals because my wife had Alzheimer's. And I'm sure everybody in this room knows that you don't get over Alzheimer's, and it never gets better. It just gets worse. So it was at the point then that I felt that I needed to spend more time with my wife, and the board would be able to do their job without me. My wife passed away earlier this year, so now I have time to be back on the board and see what I could do to help the board again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to go to the next session here, which is member questions that came from the members, and they've been sorted out by our corporate secretaries. Thank you all for writing legibly. I will give the name of the person who submitted the question. I will read the question, and then we'll take a rotation on the answers from the candidates. If that's all appropriate, I will continue. From Mary Cito. What changes in the direction of the third board, if any, would you promote if elected? What changes in the direction of the third board, if any, would you promote if elected? And so that's the question. And let's start with number 2, which is Egon Garthofner.
Well, I'm not sure I've charted the direction of the third board all that precisely. However, I think what I've seen in the last couple of years is the third board is very much getting in the right direction. They have stood up very vehemently in opposition to a project that was somewhat out of control, mainly the Building E replacement. It's not that that we don't need to address that question. However, the proposals that were coming from VMS were simply not acceptable, period. And sometimes things have come down and people just accept them. When I first started on GRF, the PAC, Clubhouse 3 rebuild was a big project. We had gotten, the last bid we gotten is $5.3 million. And then there was going to be a 10%, contingency, so that would have taken it to $5.8 million. So we took over and we got some control on the GRF, on the M&C committee. And along with 2 other board members, Bert Moldau and Carl Randazzo from United, we started going out there and doing inspections. We found that most of the proposals were nonsense, utter nonsense. And some of the stuff is happening in other proposals like Building E replacement. And the third board has stood up very rigorously against just the unfettered spending of money. And I think that's the right direction to go in. Thanks.
Thank you. Same question to Robert Muchnick.
As you all probably are aware, I'm not a fan of recalls, having personally been subject to one. The third board is currently leading the charge to recall 2 members of GRF. I don't believe that recall is the right way to go. I believe that there needs to be a sit-down, a cooperation, work together. I don't see GRF as being above third or United, but I think there needs to be a collaborative approach, and I don't think that that's being taken right now. So if you're asking me about the current direction of the board as it relates to that issue, I have difficulty with it, and I don't think we should proceed with it.
Thank you. Next candidate, Donald Hopman.
At the risk of sounding like a broken record, you cannot do enough to restrict the growth of bureaucracies. I think if I was able to influence the board in that way, I would be talking about oversight, oversight, oversight. Make sure that the people are doing what they're being paid to do and that they're not unnecessarily expanding their organizations for their own personal benefit. I think that when I mentioned before that when I was chief of investigations in my very first year, I accomplished this 15% reduction. Well, the very first thing that I did was do away with the deputy chief's job. When it became vacant, I never filled it. It was a position that was not 100% necessary. And that sort of thing can go on in most bureaucracies. Bureaucracies have a way of growing to the point where they intimidate their creators. They're too much in control of everything, and the elected officials start to rely on them too much because they don't want to engage in oversight. That's what I would do.
Thank you. Next candidate is Ruth Johnson.
Not sure that I would really change a lot about the third board. I would want to continue on the path that they've started, which is to take the initiative with BMS and GRF. They've also taken the initiative to work with other boards within the community for both economy of scale and knowledge of shared concerns so that we operate more as a team rather than individual organizations. I believe that the members of the third board are truly concerned about the village, and the top thing on that is cost, cost, cost. And that's what I hear at every meeting. They're really concerned about the cost, but also the service that we provide.
Thank you. Next candidate is Craig Wayne.
The direction of the board. I think the direction of the board is right in terms of trying to keep our monthly fee in line. And by the same token, provide us with the amenities that we have and keep the amenities in good working order. My problem with the board, as I mentioned in the very beginning, is transparency. I think that the transparency is lacking. And therefore, that would be a major issue as far as I'm concerned to regain the transparency so that we would not have things going on behind our backs. Thank you.
Thank you for that, for the answers. Now we have the second question from J.R. Davis. And the question is, what is your position on the replacement of Building E? And we will start with Craig Wayne.
Currently, the idea is to replace Building E because the facilities are no longer applicable to the security department. But to move out everything on the third floor, from table tennis to the PC club to the Mac club, and I'm not sure what else is on the third floor that would be removed, I think that's inappropriate. So we have the money in our budget to replace the building, and therefore I am in favor of replacing the building.
Thank you. Next candidate, Ruth Johnson.
As far as Building E goes, I think that as an organization, we need to go back to the drawing board and start over. I think this has dragged on too long, from my knowledge. As in general, even if we have to rent space next door, the cost of that new building, it will be many, many years before we reach the $7 million, even in rentals. I think the community center should stay a community center. But I think we need to look at other alternatives, whether they're rentals, whether they're modular buildings or trailers. I've worked in some trailers in the past, and they're pretty nice. So I think as we bring in a new board and a lot of new people, that we really should start over and look at all the options and involve the boards and the community members again. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question to Egon Garthofner.
Well, the issue of what we're going to do to this community center has been resolved because the board voted that we were going to look for replacement of Building E, not to move anybody out of the community center. So that issue is moot. The problem with the replacement of the community center is that, the Building E, is that when we initially allowed work to be done on it, it got out of control. We wanted to replace a 5,500 square foot building. We had hoped to do modular or trailer buildings assembled into one unit to get that done. We also looked at looking at a building replacement, and then VMS took over, and they came back and they offered us a 10,000 square foot building. And we were not even invited to the kickoff meeting where that was decided. That's a real problem. Okay, so then they went back to the drawing board. We got a 6,500 square foot building, but it was still at $7 million. So that was considerably more than we wanted to do. What we need to do is look at a replacement. Ultimately, we'll need to put some people back in there, but a replacement for the building that's cost effective. It's interesting, each of the boards has a lawyer to advise them on legal matters that they have no expertise in. Why can't we, if we're going to spend $7 million, spend $10,000 or $20,000 to get expert advice on how to do that, but we get expert advice, not VMS gets expert advice. In other words, we have to take control of the building, otherwise it will never get done the way we want to have it done. Thanks.
Thank you. Next up is Robert Muchnick.
The issue with Building E is a very interesting one that I've followed from afar since I'm not on the GRF board. But my understanding is that there were two basic proposals. One proposal was to rebuild Building E. The second proposal was to not rebuild Building E, but yet use the community center and basically turn it into an administrative center and move out a whole host of people who were brought in 22 years ago when this was built to create space for the ping pong club, the PC club, the Mac club, etc. To move them out where? To take over other space, move other clubs. That proposal was, in terms of dollars and cents, not that much less than what it would cost to build Building E. The interesting thing is, though, and I think a point that's missing, is that Building E is being money that is taken from reserves. So there will be no additional out-of-pocket costs for any of our residents in the village. If you went to the other plan to move everybody around, that money, $2, $3, $4 million, whatever it would be, would come out of operating expense money, which would mean that it would come out of our pockets in terms of having to have it in that yearly budget. So from the standpoint of where the money's coming from, one is reserves that they've been planning and saving and building for, so they have that money. The other one is operating, two separate funds. One has a much greater impact on you and I. So I'm in favor of going with Building E the way it's currently being proposed.
Thank you. Next up is Donald Hopman.
Yes, I still don't understand what justification there was based on the needs of the security department or any other agency to get new space. If it was a question of it's really impossible to get the current job that they're required to perform done, that's fine. Then you could look at all the options. But I don't think you even have to look at options if everybody else is satisfied with the space that they have currently to accommodate one organization within the whole parameter of things that their bureaucracy would be allowed to continue to grow. If it's necessary, then it's fine. But if it's not, we should take it off the table altogether.
Thank you. Next question from Sandra Smolinski. What is your position on turf removal? And that will start with Craig Wayne.
Unfortunately, we have to follow the state law. My position is we shouldn't be removing the turf at all, but that's not an option that we have because the state of California has come down and said that we have to replace it to save water. Now, as mentioned in gate 14 and gate 11, is it? And gate 11, we're using drinking water instead of recycled water like we do in the rest of the facility, in all of our other gates. So that is where we have to start. And that is going to be a very, very expensive proposition. And we're going to do it over a period of years. That's it.
Thank you. Next up is Ruth Johnson.
I don't have a strong yay or nay opinion about the turf removal because I think we need to follow the guidelines of the laws, and we all know that the issue of water is current. It's been in the past. It's going to be in the future, and we need to be looking to the future for whatever we do. We don't need any temporary solutions. We need long-term solutions. I'm at Gate 9, and we have drinkable water at Gate 9. So that brings up another issue of why we have drinking water for the landscape in one gate, and we have non-potable water at other gates. So again, we're not consistent, and we're not transparent about what's going on. I've heard complaints from different areas that they are totally unaware of what's happening, and they haven't been included. So it's certainly an area that we need to involve the community in rather than just starting to do things sort of haphazard as we go along. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Donald Hopman.
Yeah, it's not much of a question. I think it's already been answered properly. We're faced with a state law. All we have to do is take a close look at what options we have in meeting that law, and you just do it. That's it.
Thank you. Next up is Robert Muchnick.
I'm going to take a slightly different approach. I personally am in favor of us keeping as much turf as possible. I like the fact that we have grass areas, that we have green areas. I love walking in them. I love taking my dog for a walk through them. And I would like to see us maintain as much as possible. Now, in terms of the law, yes, there is a law. The implementation of that law is by 2029. So we have plenty of time to wait and see how the state of California is going to define certain components of that. Do we need to plan? Yes, we need to plan. Will we probably have to replace turf in some areas? Most likely, no question about it. However, where we can keep as much turf as possible, that's what I'm in favor of.
Thank you. Same question to Egon Garthofner.
Well, the question's not going to go away, so we will have to face it. One of the problems not addressed by anyone yet is the fact that not only is the recycled water a problem that where it's not available, there's also a limited supply of recycled water because we're hooked to El Toro, which is a relatively smallish water agency. Clearly, the state of California has punted on this problem for for the entire time after Governor Brown, who did a wonderful job for the state of California on water supply, the elder Governor Brown, I should say, they have done nothing. They have overlooked building new water supplies when the population went from 20 to 40 million in this state. And so now, having been caught out, they're going to dump it on us. And unfortunately, we've got to live with it. So the answers are, one, let's do some pushback and get some people in the state of California that'll give us some water. That's a long-term thing. For ourselves, we're going to have to look at some options. Anybody that I think wants to put in artificial turf in their house, if they have an individual thing, those things look really attractive, but you have to do it at your own cost. For the larger scale, I think we can replace some turf with nice desert or low water maintenance plants, but in general, we're still going to have all the trees and the other stuff around, so we're going to need to address the water situation, which means we're going to have to replumb part of the areas that now use potable water for irrigation, and there's no choice in that. We just have to replumb it. Thanks.
Thank you. Next question. This is a longer question, so please take notes. As a board member responsible for maintaining the aesthetics and property values in one of the largest HOAs in the country, what would you do to ensure the architectural integrity of the buildings we live in is respected? And how do you control alterations so that they enhance but do not detract from the architecture of the many models in the village? Let's start with Craig Wayne.
Obviously, we want to keep our places looking as nice as possible, and that means maintaining what we have. Now, as far as the architectural aspect of it is, we have an architectural committee. We have a whole division that handles architecture and requests for changes. I think we need to rely on them for their expertise. It goes to the board, and then the board votes on whether or not some changes should be made or not made. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to Egon Garth.
I think in general, especially in third, the changes, the alterations that have been done have been very, very tasteful and in line with the existing architecture. And the way that you can tell that is that as you go around and look at various different places, it's very difficult to tell whether an alteration has taken place. In other words, the quality assurance required by the board has been carried out, and you cannot in general tell unless you look for little telltale things like the tiles on the part of the roof are slightly different or something like that. I think in general we've done a really good job in the village. Most of the village has stucco exterior buildings, and the earliest part of the village does not have that. At some point we may want to go in that direction, but that will be mostly in United's area. But I think in general the village is doing a good job in maintaining architectural standards, and the renovations have been tastefully and well done.
Thank you. Donald Hopman.
Yeah, I agree. I like the way the grounds and the buildings and everything looks around here. It's the reason we moved here 4.5 years ago. I can't think of anything that I would want to impose upon an architectural committee that would be an improvement over what they're doing right now. It looks really very good to me.
Thank you. Ruth Johnson.
I think that the aesthetics of the community are in general very, very good. I know that we all complain a lot about landscape. A lot of that, they will admit, is very much behind due to COVID and some mistakes that were made during that time by our probably boards and by VMS, and they are doing their best to catch up. As far as alterations, the Architectural Committee has done, I think, a great job in coming up with new standards for things like skylights, new patio covers, the colors, adding a bathroom to some of the units that have single bathrooms and huge closets, making the homeowners more comfortable and happier with their villas. Now, there are some areas within our boundaries that I've driven through and I see that standards are not being followed, which is a concern to me. We have the standards. What we need to do is enforce them. What happens, it's just like the government. We make all these laws and then we don't enforce them. And then they try and make new laws. Well, we don't really need new laws. We need to ask that people follow our rules, and that will be better for the whole community. So that's my standing on aesthetics and the property values. I think it's a really good community, and I'm new.
Thank you. Robert Muchnick?
Well, I generally agree with things that my colleagues have said. I think from an architectural standpoint, I find the Third Mutual to be very attractive overall. That's one of the things that caused us to move here, was when we drove through and you see the place, it really has a real appeal. And I'd like to see us maintain that appeal. I don't want to see us backtrack on any of our standards. I think we need to enforce them. And we have a compliance division in VMS that is specifically geared to go out and look if they get a complaint about something that is out of whack or inappropriate in terms of a cover or a design or something of that nature. It gets brought to the attention of the board. The board holds a hearing on that issue and calls the person in to discuss it and to make the appropriate change. And I think that compliance department has been working very well to address those issues. So if you have any of those kinds of concerns about something that you think is not appropriate, please call the compliance department, let them know about your concern, and they will go out and investigate it.
Thank you. Due to time constraints, we have to only reduce to 2 more questions. So I'm going to just pick them at random so we're not sorting through them. 2 questions. Thank you so much for everyone's participation so far. Okay, there's 2 here. I'll read the first one from Lynn Nicholson. What is your opinion of the current impeachment movement going on? For or against your opinion is important. First would go to Craig Wayne.
I think I've already stated my opinion on that more than once today. I think it's a travesty to be having such an event to recall people without even knowing why they're going to be recalled. So I am definitely opposed to the recall.
Thank you. Let's go to Robert Muchnick.
Well, I've shared with you before my thoughts on recall. I think Jim Hopkins and Yvonne Hunter have both worked very hard in their positions to represent you folks and the amenities, and their commitment to the trust is unwavering. And I would rather see us have some other way to resolve any conflict that might exist, because let me tell you folks, if this recall goes through, I think we're headed down the road for a lawsuit. The last time there was a recall of a GRF president, they recalled the president. There was a lawsuit. It wound up costing us $200,000, and that person was reinstalled back on the GRF board. So I think we need to take the whole process of recall and be very careful about it. You know, it should be for egregious behavior. If there was some financial issue or something else, fine. But I don't think that when you say there's no communication, that's a basis for a recall. So I'm clearly opposed to the recall of the 2 members of GRF.
Thank you. Next is Ruth Johnson.
Personally, I don't know enough about the reason for the recall to even recommend yay or nay. In general, though, I think it's very unfortunate that we need to do business this way. It's not the way to run a business. It's not the way to work together. So I would be very, very hesitant to recall a member of any board without some serious reason. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Donald Hopman.
I'm opposed to any recall that doesn't clearly spell out a reason for it. And it's true for this association as it is in court for a criminal violation or anything else. You have to have information before you charge people with anything. They're totally innocent as far as I'm concerned. I haven't heard one charge against anybody.
Thank you. Next is Egon Garthofner.
Well, a recall is a procedural situation or a procedural event that's written into regulations in practically everybody that's elected someplace. Our bylaws state that the recall will be without cause, and that's just the way it's written up. However, when the recall meeting comes about, there will be some statements and reasons given, no doubt, by the 3rd president or United president or both. I don't know. I have no personal knowledge of what the reasons are behind it. One of the people that's subject to potential recall is sitting here in the room, and I know of no reason why what she could have done to be recalled, but there it is. However, it is a procedural thing. It's written into the regulations, and therefore we have to allow it. And we should hold our powder dry until we find out what the reasons are and let the situation go on. From time to time, this happens in our society, it happens in the state, it has happened in other places, and sometimes it's successful, sometimes it's necessary. But we don't know where it is here. We won't find that out until September the 5th. Thank you.
Thank you. Last question from Rick Eckhart. What is and has been your personal experience, both good and bad, working with and for the Third Mutual? Let's start with Donald Hopman. I will repeat the question. What is and has been your personal experience, both good and bad, working with and for Third Mutual?
I haven't done any work for or with Third Mutual, so there's nothing that I can add to that question.
Thank you. Egon Garthofner, same question.
In general, my interactions with Third board members have been very good. I've made some personal requests on behalf of members to get stuff done. I went to Jim Cook, who's on the MNC, and had a roof repair project worked on for a member, and it worked out very successfully. I also recently asked the president of United to handle a situation with a water intrusion bill that happened to a United member, and she was very adept in handling that. So in general, I have had nothing but good interactions with other board members.
Thank you. Next up, Ruth Johnson.
My personal experience with the Third Mutual board members currently is that they're a very educated group of gentlemen with long careers in many, many areas of business. So they're able to contribute a great deal to the organization. They're reasonable. They actually care about what happens in the community, not having their own way, but they actually care what the community does and what they're like. They take their fiduciary responsibility very, very seriously. And I think that really sums up my opinion of that current board. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Muchnick.
My experience, my experience working with Third, in terms of what has been the most positive, the most beneficial, has been representing you folks, has been having the opportunity to interact with you and to also try to represent you in terms of improving our quality of life. And I look forward to that opportunity to continue to do that again. In terms of the Third board, currently 3 of the members who are there are choosing not to continue on Third board. So there's going to be a dramatic change in what the overall look of the board is and the behavior of the board is. And I think that the whole issue of transparency, communication, and doing the best to represent you folks is really what's important.
Thank you. Craig Wayne.
Having been on the board, I can tell you that everybody on the board is diligent about representing our community. They all want the same thing, to have the best community we could possibly have and make it reasonable. Make it reasonable for everybody from month to month to month. That's it, simply. They're diligent. You can't ask for more than that.
Thank you very much. That's the conclusion of all the questions both members had prepared. We now go to closing statements, 2 minutes each, and we will start with the random rotation, starting with first one on the list was Donald Hopman.
Everyone who seeks a position on the board generally says that they want to improve the quality of life and reduce costs and that sort of thing, and they all mean it. I mean it, and everybody here means it, and all the people who are serving now probably mean it as well. I just think it's a question of emphasis. I think that the areas where we can improve our quality of life the most is if you think of it separately as physical plant and grounds and that sort of thing, and people things. And I think that you've had a good opportunity to hear different views on some of those things. I just think that in all of it, I'm going to say it over and over again, when we come up short, if you take a close look at it, you'll see that it's an unwieldy bureaucracy. And the reason you get an unwieldy bureaucracy is you don't have enough oversight. And you don't have enough oversight is because a lot of people, when they get these positions and get into the positions of authority, it's something that they find distasteful to do. They don't want to go head to head with people who have ingrained themselves and curried favor and that sort of thing. It is a problem, and if you have somebody on the board who will attack that problem, then you'll be ahead.
Thank you. Egon Gotthofner.
Well, as I said, my goal is to continue the conservative fiscal actions that I practiced for the last 4.5 years on GRF. I propose, again, to focus 3 areas: ensuring fiscal responsibility, enhancing communication with members, and improving our oversight of VMS. I mentioned earlier about a project at the PAC that was $5.3 million. That was the request that was coming out of the M&C director for VMS. We ultimately looked at that project and we found it was absolutely ridiculous. We had a redundant air conditioner unit that was like $500,000. We had a request for $500,000 for a rear projector, a rear projection device for the stage, which had no name, with no example, no place to go on the internet and look it up, and $500,000 for that. They were going to tear out all the air conditioning ducts and replace them with new air conditioning ducts. When you replace your air conditioning in your house, do you replace the ducts? I mean, good Lord. But that's what was on the board. So ultimately what we did is we fixed both dining rooms. We cleaned up the entryways, repainted that. We are in the process of fixing the bathrooms. And the ultimate cost for all of that, we also did the billiards room, and we changed all the lights over to LEDs. We did some work on the stage. Ultimately, we're going to spend about $1 million instead of $5.3 million. And most stuff that comes down to us, we can save some amount. That percentage, probably not, but in many cases, we'd be able to save a lot of money. Thank you.
Thank you. Craig Wayne?
Thank you. I respectfully request your support for my candidacy. I believe I'm the right person for the board because of my prior experience in other associations. Being president of 2 other associations has given me a lot of background. And having been on the board here in Third Mutual, I also understand exactly where we're coming from. So that's my position. Thank you.
Thank you. Ruth Johnson?
My parents were born during the Depression. One, my mom, from a small farm in Ohio, and the other, a first-generation American. They cared a great deal about their religion, family, and country. They were extremely hardworking, honorable, and generous, and they expected the same of their children. We were taught that we could achieve anything in life, but we had to work for it and do it to the best of our ability or not at all. I tried to honor their wishes through education and professional experience. Prior to purchasing our home, I enjoyed a 40-year history with Laguna Woods, as my parents were long-term residents of Third Mutual. In addition to my professional career, I am currently a volunteer at Saddleback Hospital and a director on the VMS board. I was recently endorsed by the Garden Villa Association, and I'm honored to represent them on the Third Mutual board. Previously, I volunteered with the Junior Achievement, Women's Crisis Service, and the Humane Society. I was also a CPR and AED certified trainer and provided free training to the community, especially the children. I wrote grant applications for nonprofits at no cost. For fun, I participate in many exercise classes, enjoy reading, hiking, and travel. I try to do at least one good deed a day, no matter how simple, like helping someone with groceries, finding help for someone in need, or just listening. I'm honored to be considered for the director position and pledge to support all members with open and honest communication, whole and complete with nothing left out. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Muchnick?
Well, I'm looking at my watch. We've now been here over an hour and a half. If you're still with us or watching this on Zoom, thank you for being here this long. I guess I'm the last one to go. I don't have a formal prepared statement, but what I would say is that service has always been something that is important to me, and my service on the board is something that I would like to do on your behalf as well as my behalf. I think my wife thinks it'll get me out of her hair somewhat, so that'd be beneficial for her. But you've heard me. I think that I'm an innovator. I think that I'm a problem solver. I think those are things that are needed in terms of our board. We need to think outside the box in terms of solving our problems. I've given you a couple of thoughts along those lines as it relates to insurance, as it relates to common area property, et cetera. I have a few others that I'd like to explore as well. But that's why I want to be on the board, and I also ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I'd like to thank the panel of candidates here this afternoon, and would especially like to thank the members that showed up and asked the questions and paid attention, and thank you for watching the program. Thank you.